Is being nice ruining your most important relationships? Or do you avoid confrontation because you fear losing control during heated conversations? Or do you avoid having hard conversations altogether with your partner or your coworkers or your family members because you don't know what to say or you don't know how to say it and you don't want to be mean? So you lean on the era of being nice, but then you notice yourself holding on to resentments over time that eventually create a sense of distance in your closest relationships. If this resonates, this video is for you. I believe the most trusted leaders are the ones that are honest and clear. So in this video, I'm going to show you a 5-step framework that has completely changed my life to having tough conversations with the people that you care about so that you can have more harmony, more connection, and more thriving relationships. Sound good? Hey, by the way, if you're new here, I'm Jennifer Hudye Moscow. Over the past decade, I've helped thousands of entrepreneurs all around the world through a process called the Vision-Driven Method, where we help them clarify their vision, create it, and bring it to life through a process called Vivid Vision. These days, I help founders go from overwhelmed and overworked to helping them create a life and a business by design that they absolutely love. And something that is always blown me away in working with CEOs who run 7, 8, and even 9-figure businesses is how so many of them avoid hard conversations in their business and their personal lives. It's important to remember that everything starts at the top. It makes sense that, if some of the leaders in the company, like the founder or the CEO, aren't having the hard conversations, then of course it trickles down. I saw a stat that 85% of employees experience workplace conflict, but most are never taught how to handle it. And there's 70% of couples that are avoiding at least one major relationship conversation, probably a lot more. There are probably hard conversations that you've been avoiding in your life. And so you're at this decision point. Either wait for the other person to lead or be a self-leader yourself. One of my favorite books on the topic of having hard conversations is called Radical Candor by Kim Scott. And she has this unique approach and framework of finding that balance between sincere praise that's kind and clear, while also making sure not to sugarcoat feedback to where the message gets lost in translation, and also not being harsh just to sound honest. To be totally honest, I used to be a horrible communicator. I literally had an ex-boyfriend probably 15 years ago that sat me down and he's like, "You really suck at communicating." And the truth was, he was right. You know that concept of fight, flight, or freeze? I would flight. I was the kind of gal who conflict would hit, I would feel uncomfortable, I'd get scared, and I'd ghost. Like, he would literally knock on my door to kindly try to work things out, and I wouldn't answer because I was so scared of the uncertainty of the conversation. I was so scared to be sort of out of control. I didn't know how to hold myself. I didn't know how to navigate it. I kind of felt like I was on one of those little dinghy boats in the middle of the ocean, but I wasn't given any oars or guidance on how to get back to shore. And that's sort of what having hard conversations feels like when you don't have the tools. And so I remember after that conversation, I just made a decision that I was going to learn how to be a good communicator. I wasn't taught how to have healthy conflict, and maybe you weren't either. I also learned that conflict oftentimes looked like either ignoring and avoiding in order to keep the peace, or being very blunt and direct without having attunement to the other person's feelings, and that truth meant being mean. And what I learned over the years was both of them were sort of the different sides of the same coin. Again, I didn't have the tools or the knowledge to navigate myself back to that shore until I started studying different books and podcasts and hiring coaches to show me the path. Because what I really realized is communication is going to be one of the most important things in my life for the rest of my life. And if I want to have deep, meaningful relationships, if I want to be an extraordinary leader and motivate and inspire people, if I want to have epic friendships, if I want to have, a healthy relationship with my family, it's going to come down to this skill, and specifically having the skill set of repairing a hurt when there's been a misunderstanding. So let's dive into the 5-step process that's going to have you have more courage going into a tough conversation. A couple quick things to note as well is you gotta understand that there's nothing wrong with conflict, okay? Conflict is part of life. Misunderstandings, dealing with humans. The strongest relationships are not the ones that don't have any conflict. They're the ones that know how to repair quickly. And the other piece is to remember to shovel while the piles are small. This is a concept that I learned from a mentor of mine, Mary Morrissey, where she said, when you notice something come up, maybe a misunderstanding or you felt hurt, instead of allowing it to build or stack, go and clean it up while the pile is small. Because if not, and the longer that you wait, the more it's going to build almost this wall of resentment. And it makes it so much harder to clean up the longer that you wait. Number one is go direct. Go directly to the person that you're unhappy with and practice clear, clean, conscious communication. Don't go to your other team members and say, oh, do you know what so-and-so did to me? Or do you know what happened with us? Or don't say, hey, can you talk to so-and-so and let them know this is what I want different, or this is how I feel? That creates triangulation, which is a drama triangle. It's not helpful. It's not supportive. It creates messy, sloppy communication. So just go direct to the person. So for example, I had a team member come to me and we were actually doing a biannual review where I was asking her, because we worked closely together, to do a review on me and how my leadership was and how my communication was. And so we were in a one-on-one conversation. The second step is set the intention for the conversation. You don't want to blindside someone by going into a tough conversation without them getting some sort of heads up. And so that could look like initially reaching out to them and saying, hey, I want to have a conversation with you. The purpose is because I want to clean something up so that we can feel more connected. How is tomorrow at 3 p.m. work for you? But ideally, keep it the sooner the better. Or maybe it's with your spouse and there was a misunderstanding around who is going to drop off the kids at school. You want to find the next opportune time where the person can be present and you can say, hey, do you have 30 minutes for us to sit down and have a quick conversation around what happened with the kids? I just want to clean this up and make sure we're back in connection. Most people have, even if it's a little bit of trauma around tough conversations, because again, so many of us didn't learn how to have these conversations well. So you don't want to just blindside someone. Maybe they're like running out the door, or they're in transition, or of going, you're driving somewhere together and they can't be fully present, and you're throwing it on them spontaneously because you're not going to get them fully present to a very important conversation. Don't let it lag too long, because then I'm sure you've experienced it too. It's like the longer you wait, the more anxiety you feel around, okay, what kind of conversation is this going to be? For example, with my team member and I, we had a meeting scheduled that was called a 360 review. She said, hey, there's something that I want to bring up with you around your leadership style. And so step number 3 is you want to share your experience. And there's 2 ways that you want to share your experience. Number 1 is you want to start by sharing just the facts about what happened. Here's what I see, or this specific thing happened and this is what came up for me. In this first step of sharing the straight facts, you want to keep it really clean of not using generalizations. Well, you always do this, or you never do this, because what's going to happen in the other person's mind is they're going to search for moments to where they did do it or they didn't do it, because naturally they may get a little bit defensive. So you want to make sure it's specific of, hey, when you arrived home 30 minutes late without letting me know, it made me feel worried. And the second piece around sharing your experience is stating how you feel or how you felt about the facts. And this is another place where people can get a little bit murky. You want to go down to a feeling. So were you sad? Were you mad? Were you scared? Were you confused? Were you uncertain? And many of us use the word feeling for thoughts that we have. If you can substitute the word feel for think and it still applies, it's actually a thought, not a feeling. So if you say, well, I feel you should stop being so messy. That's not a feeling. That's a thought. I think you should stop being so messy. For example, with my team member, when we were in this 360 review, she was like, hey, I want to give you feedback on your leadership style. She said, I noticed that there's certain meetings where you have this really neutral look on your face. And she's like, it's kind of, I don't think she directly said this, but it was like a little bit of a resting bitch face where she was just like, it's neutral. She's like, and it's really hard to read, whether it's in a celebration for a team member or something goes really wrong. It just seems like this blank stare. She's like, the story that I make up is that it's really hard to read you. And so I'm trying to get a gauge, and I notice that I'm spending more time trying to read your energy or your emotions of where you're at than actually just finding out what's really going on for you. And she said, I'm just curious what's going on for you with that? Or are you intending to do that? So when sharing your experience, you want to make sure that you're sharing the facts, sharing your feeling, and make sure that you're addressing the behavior, not the person. This is so important because if you start giving feedback to someone's character, they're going to feel really defensive. They're likely going to feel a lot more hurt, and it's going to be difficult for them to actually receive the feedback that you have. So again, with my team member, she was like, hey, it's hard to read where you're at when you have this blank stare on your face. And it kind of makes the meetings seem a little bit flat too. And I know that you want to have more excitement and morale and energy in the meetings. So I just wanted to share that with you. Now, step number 4 is you want to get curious about the other person's experience. So you want to lead with curiosity. Even something as simple as, hey, I'm curious, what was happening for you in that instance? Or is there anything that you want me to know about what was going on in your world in what I just shared? Or I want to understand your side of things. So for example, in the feedback from my team member, I shared with her that I had read several leadership books that they talked about these neutral leaders and how you don't want to be an emotionally volatile leader because a lot of the team members are looking to your nervous system on, how are you showing up? And so I started practicing trying to be a more neutral leader, but I misinterpreted that in a certain way, which was just like a blank look versus I think that when I had the conversation with my team member, it was an invitation for me to be like, oh, I can still be neutral and create a sense of stability and safety for my team members, no matter what's going on in the business, by celebrating and being in my range of emotions, but just letting them know that they're not responsible for my emotions. And that was a big distinction that I wouldn't have gotten if the team member didn't share with me how my behavior was landing on the meetings. And so it's so helpful oftentimes with the people that you really care about that are in close proximity to you. Once you understand their world and their perspective and you share and open up a space for them to tell you about it, not from a place of like, hey, this is my excuse or this is my reason, but hey, this is just my world. Oftentimes you can find that, oh, we have a place of overlap where we both have the same sort of intentions of what we're working towards, but we're just seeing it from different worlds or perspectives. And so for me, when my team members shared the feedback, it was actually really helpful because then I was able to see that the way that I was intending to come across in my leadership was different than what was actually landing. Step number 5 is find the new recommitment or solution moving forward. And so if you're the person that's bringing the conversation to the table, make sure that you've already thought through painting the picture of, hey, what would a solution look like to this? Or paint the picture of what you would like in a recommitment. For example, maybe you brought up to your spouse, hey, the last 3 days in a row, you've showed up late from work with no message or communication. And I was waiting for you, had dinner ready. We had some plans. And so in the future, if you're going to be late, can you let me know as soon as you are going to know and send me a text and let me know when you're going to be home? Or maybe you're addressing a team member where they specifically bring problems to you, but they don't bring the solution. So this would be a great example to model for them. Hey, in the future, if you have a problem, I'm here to support you. But when you come to me with the problem, what I'd like to see is at least 3 ideas of solutions that you've come up with and the one that you would intend to move forward on based on the knowledge and information that you gathered about it. And so you're painting the picture of what a solution would look like. And then you ask them, hey, is there anything that you need? Or can we make this new agreement together? And you want to make sure that it's specific. This is where a lot of people get wrong of, can you just make sure this never happens again? But you haven't boiled down to like, what is this? What is the specific behavior that we are making a recommitment on that's going to be different moving forward? And you want to make sure that it's very clear so that both of you know what winning looks like. For example, with my team member, she brought to me, she was like, hey, in real time on meetings, I would love to see more real time encouragement from you of finding the little places to where the team is crushing it and highlight that, celebrate it, and also share in real time what's coming up for you. And again, it was such a lesson for me of my sharing in real time is valuable, but making sure that I'm doing so in a way to where the team doesn't feel responsible for how I feel, and that I'm also empowering them in those conversations, in those meetings. So to recap, the 5 steps to having a tough conversation is number 1, go direct. Go to the person that you want to have the conversation with, and ideally as quick as possible to clean it up. Number 2 is set the intention. Let them know that your intention of this conversation is to ultimately get back into greater connection with them. Number 3, share your experience. What are the straight facts? How did you feel? What is the behavior that maybe affected you, or what was the impact that it had on you? And remember to address the behavior, not the character. Number 4 is get curious about their experience, asking them what was going on in your world when that happened. Can you tell me more? And genuinely seek to understand their perspective. And number 5, map out a clear solution moving forward that the both of you can agree upon moving forward. And so I hope you found this video helpful, and I encourage you to use this exact process the next time that you have a tough conversation, because it's not a matter of if you're going to have a conversation, it's a matter of when. And be that self-leader that is the one that shows others that having these sorts of conversations can be safe, they can be helpful, they can bring you back into greater harmony. And if you found this video helpful, the way that you can pay it forward is by liking or subscribing to the channel for more content like this. We're just getting started, and it means the world that you are here watching, and even share it with a friend that you think would really value this topic. I'll see you in the next video.